Okay, the recording is started.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It appears that all five board members are present. Good evening and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Woodbury County Board of Adjustment. Today's date is May 6, 2024, and the time is 6:01 p.m. Tonight's meeting will be audio taped and the minutes will be prepared. In respect to all parties, we ask that those present turn off cell phones or set to vibrate. Those in attendance are asked to legibly complete the attendance sheet up on the front table. I'd like to take a minute to review the procedures that the board will follow tonight. First, the board will handle the normal housekeeping agenda items. Then for each application on the agenda, I will open the public hearing on the item. The planning and zoning staff will then present the staff report, including the staff recommendation. Any letters or other communication received from the public prior to the hearing will be entered into the record. The applicant will then have the opportunity to present his or her case and respond to the staff report. Next, we will hear comments from the public. I would ask if you would like to speak either in support of or against the application, you must come to the microphone. Please state your name and address for the record. All interested parties shall be heard, but repetitious comments should be avoided. Repetitious or irrelevant comments may be ruled out of order by the chair. I ask that you remain respectful and courteous with your comments at all times. After all public comments have been heard, the staff and applicant may make a closing statement. The hearing shall then be closed by a motion and vote. Thereafter, no further comments from staff, public, or applicant may be heard unless asked for by the board. The board shall then deliberate the case and may ask questions of the applicant, the staff, or any party offering testimony. However, such questions do not reopen the hearing for additional comments from the public unless so requested or approved by the board. The board will then formulate a vote on a motion. The motion typically will either grant or deny the requested application. Any board member who has an ex parte communication to place in the record of this meeting should do so prior to the beginning of deliberation of their respective agenda item. Any person desiring to appeal the board's decision to a court of record may do so within 30 days after the filing of this decision with the Planning and Zoning Office. So with that, are there any public comments on matters not on the agenda? I did, yes, yep. I believe I did read that in, so we're good there. Okay, I'm gonna move down to item 4, the approval of the minutes from the March 4th, 2024. I would make a motion to approve the minutes from that meeting contingent that the chair and vice chair elections are noted. So do I have a second? Okay, we have a second by Pam. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the March 4th, 2024 meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes 5-0. Okay, I'm gonna move down to item 5. The public hearing is now open. In full disclosure, I just want to make it known that I did visit the site after just a brief phone call with Mr. Erickson for permission to visit the site. Were any other board members able to visit the site? Pam, Tom? Okay. Okay. Dan, I believe we have some new material.
Yes, before I read the item into the record, I do want to point out that we have received additional comments for the record that have been sent to the board, but I do ask that these individually be received into the record by the Board of Adjustment if you so choose, by a motion and a second. And the first one that I would like to ask be received into the record was sent to us from Cheryl Tevis on May 2nd.
Okay, we have a motion by Ashley,
I'll second that.
a second by Doyle to receive this into the record. Any further comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All
opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes 5-0.
Okay, the next one is was sent to us from Glenna Tevis also on May 2nd, 2024.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept this into the record? Do we have a motion by Pam? Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Pam, second by Doyle. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0.
Okay, the next one is from Stephen Burns, also received on May 2nd, 2024.
Okay, do I have a motion to receive this into the record? Okay, I have a motion by Pam. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Pam, second by Doyle. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0.
Okay, the next one has been received by, sent to us by Kim Solzberger, also on May 2nd, 2024.
Okay, I'll make a motion to receive this. Do I have a second?
I'll,
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Ashley. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
aye.
All opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0.
Okay, and another one has been received by, sent to us from Abe Sandquist on Friday, May 3rd, 2024.
Okay, do I have a motion to receive this?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ashley to receive this, second by Doyle. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0.
Okay, so this public hearing is over this action item, which is the consideration of a conditional use permit application for a proposed waste composting site on parcel number 86450540000001 and parcel number 864505400002. It's a conditional use permit application by Natural Fertilizer Products, applicant Abe Sandquist and property owner Timothy A. Erickson for a waste composting site on the reference parcels. The proposed location is about 3.7 miles north of Hornick, Iowa, and about 6.7 miles northeast of Sloan. Both parcels are located in the Agricultural Preservation zoning district. The Woodbury County Zoning Commission had looked through this application at their April 22nd, 2024 meeting, where it was a review session. And the commissioners, there were 3 of them present at that meeting, and they voted 3-0 with the recommendation to deny approval of this conditional use permit application. The proceedings, which were included in the packet, as well as links to the audio, kind of demonstrate the different items that were discussed throughout the respective evening. As you can tell in the minutes, there was a discussion on whether to send the recommendation or not, where the applicant ultimately decided to move forward with the recommendation, which ended up being the denial recommendation. But the Board of Adjustment has the duty to look at all recommendations, whether they're in the affirmative or in opposition, as far as coming here to look at the merits of the application and the case and the proceedings and everything as instituted by the respective ordinance. The applicant has definitely provided a significant amount of material, and there's been quite a bit of comments that have been submitted into the packet that did make the zoning commission either for their packet or else by receipt into their respective record. As far as all of the different criteria within the zoning ordinance, the conditional use permit process is based upon standards and considerations, or which oftentimes we call criteria, to see how they fit into the respective ordinance. So as far as the staff recommendation, staff had laid out a series of areas that could be looked at as possible conditions. And again, the zoning commission had also, again, to repeat, did send the denial aspect. So with that said, I would probably suggest that the board ask the applicant to further describe their request.
Okay, if the applicant is present, you may approach the board and give us an address. I'll need a motion to receive. Motion received by Doyle. Do I have a second? Second by Pam. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0.
Yeah, my name is Abraham Sandquist. I'm actually from Woodbine, Iowa, 414 Walker Street, Woodbine, Iowa. So first thing I want to do is this sounds to me like I see this board is new compared to the last one, so I want to kind of start out similar. We call this a waste, composting facility, and I think that the word waste is emphasized sometimes a little bit too much. If you think about anything, a weed, like I made an expression one time, or an analogy one time last time, I was mowing my grandmother's yard when I was 10 years old, and I mowed over what I thought was a weed. Okay, and the grandma come out and reprimanded me for that and says, "What'd you move that over for, Abe?" And I said, "Well, Grandma, that was a weed." And she said, "Abe, a weed is a plant out of place." Okay, I wanted that there. That was a flower to me. Next time, leave it. Okay, so maybe think about that. My dad says it's a weed, and Grandma said it's a flower. So as a waste is not always waste. It's an organic material, or it's something that is not in the right place. Okay, you have pop bottles are considered waste. Now they're not. Now we can recycle them and use as something else. What this whole project is all about is recycling an organic material. Okay, and it is waste because nobody knows what to do with it yet, but it has a lot of fertility, which farmers buy every day. Okay, so I want to start out there. So I want to also start out with, just so you guys know who I am. Again, I'm Abe Sandquist. Okay, graduated college at Northwest Missouri State with a degree in agronomy. Okay, went to school there, went to work for NRCS afterwards. So I was a soil conservationist for 3 years or 4 years. Okay, so there I was working with large scale animal feeding operations, helping them design comprehensive nutrient management plans, understanding what nutrient resources are on the farm, which ones they can reutilize again. We had a P index problem. We had potential for phosphorus loss. So I would actually go and work with these farmers. And in the light bulb moment for me starting my business almost 20 years ago, I was working with a livestock facility, and I was 23. Okay, so then this guy had a P index, which just means his phosphate levels were too high. Okay, so I went to him and said, "You cannot apply this manure to your field anymore." And he says, "Well, what do you expect me to do with it?" I said, "Sell it to your neighbor." And he says, "If you think it's so easy to sell poop to a farmer, why don't you do it?" So I sat down, put it all together, made the transaction. Everybody was happy. I'm thinking, this is a business model. Like nobody understands. Back then, everybody thought manure was waste. Well, nobody wants to manage it. Okay, so that was a business model. I started that, and I've been doing it ever since. So now we're all over Southwest Iowa, and we're even into the northwest part of Iowa, and we're marketing manure every day, and it was not being done 17, almost 20 years ago. So what I'm doing here today, so after that, I got thinking, and during that time, I got thinking there are other waste streams that are not being utilized. A lot of food waste, a lot of things that we waste either off our plate or during the food manufacturing process. A lot of those things may not be appealing or something that is nobody knows what to do with, so they haul it to the landfill. Okay, when it goes to the landfill, it breaks down anaerobically. It breaks down without oxygen. It creates methane. Methane is a greenhouse gas. So we have air quality issues. We have and other environmental issues about these things going to the landfill. Okay, so all this stuff needs to be thought about a little bit differently. So at that point, actually, I also ran out of manure. So I don't have enough manure to sell. We've been selling manure for almost 20 years and nobody can get enough. It is an absolute, Iowa State University has a lot of research on it. Organic products applied to the soil is good. Okay, and everybody knows that. So in 2022, part of my pamphlet, I'm not following in order. I'm sorry about that, you guys. I don't know which page I'm on here, but in 2022, Reuters magazine called and they were asking me about marketing manure and how do we do it and what are we doing it for and whatnot. Well, they were concerned about a nutrient supply chain that's going to be disrupted when we had the Russian-Ukraine war. Okay, and even Europe was concerned about us growing enough crops because if Russia and Ukraine fight, what are we going to do for fertilizer in the United States? We buy most of it from there. We import a lot of our nutrient that we don't think about. Okay, so I told them we sell manure, and I said we don't have enough. We need more. Okay, well then in the fall of 22, a fertilizer expansion program came out. So that is on. I don't know which page that is on. Sorry about not following the order here, but you can see it's a fertilizer production expansion program. So I saw this come across my email, and I'm on the composting council for the state of Iowa. So I'm the vice chair, one of the first people to get that started. So we formed a council to kind of grow this industry. This fertilizer production expansion program came about, and it said anybody that wants to has a business model that they can say will create renewable, sustainable fertility locally. You can apply. So I met all the criteria. I applied for it, and I have an email back that says you're accepted. So now you have to go through the process of find your land, get it permitted, go through the whole process, and I have to meet all the environmental regulations and that are within state and federal and county. So meet all those regulations, and then you can move forward. Okay, so that's why I'm here today. As I found a piece of land and a willing seller. And the thing is, it's not just thinking about a piece of land, okay? Thought about this a lot. You know, if we put it south, right here, south of Sioux City, then if we haul other materials in that need to be mixing agents, we got to haul up. We got traffic going in. We're going to have it run the south of town, and we have traffic going in and then back out again. Okay, all this material is probably going to go to the hills somewhere. That's where it's going to do the most good. So I feel like positioning it kind of strategically where the product is going to end is going to be a good thing. And people talk about potentially reducing, taking some land out of production for a project like this. This is for all agricultural use. According to the FPEP grant, this is an agricultural program. Okay, so can we sell a little bit in the bag? Probably. We might do some, but we won't sell very much of it that way. Most of it will get utilized in agricultural. So we're going to take maybe 10 or 15 acres, 20 acres, whatever it is, out of production and put it in a facility or put it into a compost pad so we can compost these materials. And we're probably going to fertilize about 15 to 20,000 acres with it. So this is going to get fertilized with a all natural, renewable, recycled organic matter type product. Okay, so the soil is going to respond better to it. So we're going to see increased productivity on 15, 20,000 acres by limiting 15 acres of land. You can also see, I've had some people in some of those comments there maybe question my, a little bit, do I know what I'm doing? That kind of stuff. Okay. The Iowa Department of Natural Resources actually selected me as one of the 15 members to rewrite the Chapter 105 code, which is the Iowa composting chapter. So I've been on a council here a year ago. We're going to meet again probably coming up, but I'm one of 15 people that are on the board to help rewrite the rules. So I think they feel like I was probably someone that had some knowledge in this industry. So there's hardly any composting facilities like this in Iowa. The state is rewriting the rules because they want it to happen. The Iowa DNR wants to see these compost facilities grow because we're going to recycle materials. They have a mandate of keeping organic materials out of the landfill. So before long, you're not going to have a place to go with organic materials. So there is a big push for it. So they're modifying the rules a little bit, not very much, but they're saying they're trying to make it easier so people will come in and actually do it. So after that part of it there, I wanted to kind of show, some people were wondering what it's going to look like. I want you guys to see what one of our compost sites would look like right now. And it's pretty much just a piece of land and a compost turner and some inoculant tanks. It actually does not look like anything that would be abnormal. It's very you want to keep it nice and clean between your rows because you don't want to have any product loss. You know, so, and you don't want, and you want to minimize smell. So you want to manage this thing right. Because if you don't manage it right, you're not going to have product to sell. That's going to be, you know, that's going to be the worst case scenario, is that we don't have product to sell. So if we don't manage it correctly, we are going to create smells. There could be smells if it's anaerobic. But I wanted to also show one of these pages. This is a product after I went through this 2 or 3 weeks ago. Someone says, I want to see it. I want to see like the process and what you do. Okay, so I tried to make a little, that's why I brought these pictures in, wanted to show what the piles would look like. On the one page here, it shows where I brought in just probably the most the liquidy type stuff that we would have to handle. Okay, like some of the worst case scenario stuff. And it kind of spilled out and looks like it splattered on the ground here, but so I put a mixture together, and I actually have a calculator that would say our goal is to get the product to a 25-to-1 carbon to nitrogen ratio and about 40 to 60% moisture. So we just made rations like we were feeding cattle, and you get it exactly right. When you get it right, took about 1 hour, and the pile looked like this. Stood up tall, looked nice, didn't look runny at all. It's actually a nice looking compost pile. I mean, I know because I'm doing it, but yeah, it looks like the product was right. The next way to know is about a week later, I came in with a probe. So you want these piles to get to 140 degrees because they're killing all the bacteria. They're killing all the different pathogens that would be involved, E. coli and everything else. So, and it kills weed seed. So, and what's happening here is the biological system is working. If you do not have temperature, you're creating smell. I took my wife here, which she has a sensitive nose too, and we went there on Friday night and we drove right beside the pile and you could not smell it. But if I was beside the raw product, you could smell it. The DNR says I have 24 hours to get that raw product in a pile. So it's regulated already that you have to put that stuff in a pile. So the DNR has a lot of regulations to make sure that we are taking care of our neighbors, taking care of the environment. And if we don't meet all of those criteria, we will not get a permit. So what I wanted to do here then, I guess, unless you guys have any more questions for me quickly, and then I'm going to pass it on to a consultant that I have. Right, there's 2 so far. So yes, so there's some starting in Nebraska. This is very new. This is becoming new. It's new to the Midwest. When I got on the Iowa Composting Council, we were all wondering, why is there not more in the Midwest? Okay, they have them in North Carolina, they have them in California. It's actually required in California. You might get a fine if you put a banana peel in the trash. I mean, that's California for it anyway, but you know, that's not gonna be what it's gonna be in Iowa, I don't think. But what I'm saying is that they require this. So that happens all over in other states, usually the East and West Coast. And a lot of times the technology starts there and it comes to the core. And right now, Nebraska's just started a chapter. Iowa started a chapter. Minnesota has a chapter. So yes, they are coming around. And there has been some people, I'm going to be frank, that get into it because they're material handlers. Okay. I'm an agronomist. I want the product. They wanted the money for handling the product. Those are the companies that get in trouble because all they want to do is get paid to haul something somewhere. I want to be able to make a product and retail it.
What about analysis of this product where you're getting up from several different sources?
Like a nutrient analysis?
Do you analysis on the product?
We do analysis on all the products as they come in. And then we can make our blend, almost like feeding cattle again. We can make a recipe to get our carbon to nitrogen ratios, our moisture contents right, to make sure when we put it in the pile, it's working right away. So we do grab samples of the product.
What about, now do you have to have the 200-day DNR?
Yep.
Manure license? Is
So-
that the only ones you need?
So we'll have it, not a 200-day. 200-day is for bulk animal nutrient. We'll have a chapter 200 license.
Oh, okay.
So we'll be monitored by IDOLS on the sales of our product, and we'll be monitored by DNR on the production site.
Okay. you have to get a fertilizer license through Idaho?
Yes, yep, we'll have to have a chapter 200 license and what to register the product with and a guaranteed analysis.
You have any problem on the heat as far as combustion? Do you ever have fire problems?
If you get your product too dry and you're not making a very good product, you could have, I've heard of people having combustion problems. Again, we have not composted food waste, but we've composted animal manures for almost 10 years. Never had a problem with that. We wet our product down because the biology wants the moisture.
How frequently are you running those tests?
Sorry, now I'm turned back. I'll turn it on now. But we'll figure out what's gonna be best, but we're gonna take samples of the product as it changes or periodically. But a lot of the materials we're gonna get are probably gonna be consistent. You know, they'll be the same stuff coming in so many times a week and whatever.
How do you make are you going to have a lab on site in order to run the analyses that you would need on what's in the product?
We would grab an analysis from whoever we're sourcing our materials from.
So they would have to have that information.
So we would
bringing
run
it
there and
in.
I would physically get a bag of it and I'll probably take it to Midwest Labs or a laboratory to analyze it before I take the material.
I see.
Do you know what the pH runs on a normal compost pile?
It's gonna be around neutral. It's gonna pretty neutral, about 7
really?
pH.
Okay. Manure usually runs low.
You'll have some pHs that'll be higher, I'm sure, and you'll have some pHs that'll be lower, but it'll come out to about 7 pH when it's done.
Is that what you're aiming for then as a neutral pH?
I'm sorry. If I have a farmer that has a low pH and they say, hey, can you put lime in this? Yeah, we can add lime to it. Or if we have a farmer that has a high pH or has high magnesium in the soil, we can make an agronomist recommendation and put calcium sulfate or something like that in it.
So you'll have a mixer of some kind in order to make the product fit, customized, I guess, for the customer that you're putting it out to.
Yep. So when we first get started, we're gonna put it like in a big feed mixer or even in a side dump. Hopefully we're gonna do it with a feed mixer. I think that's gonna be the best way to do it if it's fast enough. And we're gonna put in all the ingredients exactly how we want them. Just again, like you were making a ration for cattle. So we know exactly that we have what we need. And then, so that way you shouldn't have a failure and your product shouldn't be too dry. It shouldn't have too much carbon. It shouldn't have too much in. You should be doing it right. We're gonna lay it out in the windrow and then we have some large compost churners that we drive over it. It's like a big drum that stirs it up in the air and throws it back up in a pile. It's actually on that picture turning. So in the middle there, you can see there's a tractor in the middle. So that tractor's pulling a compost turner and it's got an inoculant tank in the back of it. So it's flipping the pile up, pretty much turning it upside down is what it's doing.
Not to interrupt you here, but could you hit your other microphone button? Yeah, that one. Yep. So the red zone. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Well, I had one question here about what type of material are you going to be getting? I noticed in the application you listed sources like Gelita, Tyson, AGP. So what particular products will you be receiving or hoping to receive from them? And the second question I have is, how long do you see this business lasting? I mean, is this something you see to continue into perpetuity or?
Good question. So we'll probably look at taking other ingredients as we find them. Okay. DNR does require that we let them know what we're taking and how much we're going to take, so they know where it comes from. So they have a lot of, but Gelita, AGP, Tyson, I mean, a few of them people are the people I'm going to go seek out. I'm in communication with a couple, but I'm going to seek these people out and say, hey, we have this other option. Okay, we're going to take DAF materials, other pressed, squeezed out residues, maybe like some bone meal, products like that are going to have nitrogen content, phosphates, calcium, you know, those things all included. If you think about it, you know, my dad used to say that we use everything but the squeal, you know, when we harvest the hogs, you know. Well, kind of. We still have these last residues, like are usually like a bone meal or something at the end, even just a DAF material from a processing facility. That is the last of it. And right now, currently, a lot of that is going to the landfill or being land applied. And probably a lot of the reason why we're here today, when it is land applied, is smelly, and the smell lasts a long time. Okay, when it's land applied. But when it's composted, it's mitigated instantly. You're putting it into an environment where the microbes will break it down.
Could you expound on the acronym DAF material for those of us that might not know what that is?
Dissolved, settled solids, I think is what that is. Something, it's to do with the settled solids in water. So like a processed wastewater that's going out to their wastewater treatment, they're going to squeeze it through a press and they're going to have a solid material coming out, which is it's another term for processed wastewater or dissolved solids. Yeah, you had another question.
Yes, as
How
far
long
as,
is this gonna last?
yeah, yes. Longevity, business plan.
I'm
longevity.
thinking that this whole industry is actually rather virgin right now. Okay, so I think that it's going to explode. And I think you're going to see them all over the place. So is this going to last a couple of years? I think it's going to last forever. We're going to figure out that we're going to recycle nutrients that we never knew we had, that we've been sending to the landfill. So whether I'm going to do it today or whether 2 years from now somebody else comes in and does it, this is going to happen. And I'm going to do it whether somewhere, you know what I mean? Because it is this is a grant and the other thing is too, you know, I don't like telling people it's a grant project, but because everybody kind of thinks bad about that, but you know, grants happen every day. Okay. You would not be selected to do these things if one, they didn't read up on you and think you're credible, and two, think it's a good business model. They're not going to throw the money away. So they don't know anything about the site, but I would say the business model, everybody's in.
How long is that grant for?
So you mean how long before it expires or how long will it last?
How many years do they pay it? Or
Okay, so it'll be just as you build. It's just like a USDA grant, like a farmer would get for building a cattle building. You know, you do the practice and they'll write you a check. And when it's over, it's over. So there's no forever funding it. They're going to help build, they're going to cost share on the facilities. It's actually going to be less than 40%. So I've got more skin in the game than anybody. So that's, you know, I got to really seriously think about about doing it. And I've thought about it a long time and make sure the business model is solid because I'm going to have more than anybody in it.
So avian flu is kind of a big deal right now, and it's seems to be going from species to species. We have a high bird population in our county. Missouri River tracks a lot of them in. If you're looking at waste products from packing house, it sounds like, and you know, at this point in time, all dairy breeds have to be tested for avian flu. In fact, they've had it transmit to humans. How do you keep the birds out of this?
The piles are going to be hot. I don't see birds in the site that I'm at now. Okay. Now, the other thing is too, is if you do look it up online, the only way to truly kill avian influenza is composting. It's the only process you can almost light it on fire and you're going to scatter it out worse than if you compost it. That's why whenever the outbreaks that happen, all the bird populations, all the bird sites actually did a compost site right there on site. And they would compost over 80 acres of ground and because they will not haul them very far to transfer the vector.
Well, I think that's part of the concern is that they do that on site. When you start taking these things and bringing them from all over the place, isn't that when you come up with unintended consequences?
We're not going to take birds. We're not going to take dead birds. We're going to take byproducts from probably a beef manufacturing or pork manufacturing, maybe chicken. But that process is heated up to 200 and some degrees. It's going to be a finished product, sterile product.
Possibly chicken manure.
No, I don't have any chicken manure in my recipe.
Okay.
Yep. This is all bedding. I don't need any more nitrogen. I got, I got all the nitrogen I need in the food waste. So the chicken manure would actually get it too hot and it wouldn't work out. There will not be any chicken manure in this. Yep.
But when you're talking food waste, I mean, that would be something that could easily attract all sorts of animals,
It
not
could.
just birds.
It could.
And you have 24 hours before you have to put that.
I talked to a DNR person the other day about this. And we were visiting about this as well. And when these piles are heated up like they're supposed to be, the rodents and the vectors they're not going to be going and digging into the piles. And we've never seen them dig into their piles that we have now. They will go to the site where maybe we actually have the raw ingredients, but those raw ingredients should be in the pile within 24 hours.
But you're bringing in raw materials basically every day, aren't you?
We will. And every day we're going to mix them up, put them in. So we're going to have a working hours of we got to establish our working hours with DNR. So it's probably going to be like a 6 to 3 or something like that. So we got 2 hours at the end to make sure we're all cleaned up and in the pile before everybody leaves. I think the rule is actually 72 hours, but we're going to try to get it done in 24 hours.
And so that's how long the process takes.
So once you put it in a pile, it depends on how, in the wintertime, when it's really, really cold, it might slow down a little bit, but I would say anywhere from probably 60 to 90 days. It's going to be in wind rows for 60 to 90 days. We're going to monitor the temperature, the moisture, and then we're going to turn the product as needed. So we'll just turn it inside out. Everything from the outside goes in. We'll probably turn it twice right away. So most of those materials that maybe would be on the outside, which they'll be covered with crop residue, but those will be on the inside probably within that first week.
How would you address the concerns about waste animal material being right next to a feedlot, raising beef for human consumption?
So these products the products that we're getting are from human consumption. They're all cooked, probably been pressure cooked and heated up to 200 and some degrees. So, I went to these facilities and people just take it and put it right in their hand. I mean, it's been through a heated process and a cooked process already. It's not a raw flesh that came off of something and came here. It's going to be through a manufacturing process.
Going with that, when you pick up this material from these different vendors, is there a chance that it, sits in a stockpile they have for, a few hours, a few days, where it could, have different bacteria start growing? I know that you address that with the heat part of it, but is it something you take immediately out the door from that
So the
facility
products-
and move it, or does it sit on their site?
They do not want it sitting on their site, and you'll actually get in some trouble if it does. Usually they have contractors that'll have trailers sitting there underneath a spout and the product falls right in the trailer and then it goes right to where it's going. Whether it's a dumpster or trailer or something like that. If there is a small pile that's been cleaned up, it's because there's something happened and it was a ice storm or something and someone couldn't get in there to get the material. So they've dumped it out back and they've got a designated spot sometimes, but they want that cleaned up for their site plan.
In reading through this material, I did notice there was some concerns over the increased truck traffic along this route. And reading through here, I noticed, I believe you mentioned one spot, it might be 5 to 10 truckloads a day. And then another part, you referenced 10 to 20. Do you have an exact idea how many loads a day we're talking here? And then are we talking dump trucks? Or are we talking semi-side dumps,
Okay.
size of the
Yep.
loads?
So yes, that is cited in there twice, and it's because there's probably a consistency of probably the 6 to 10 a day. But there's going to be times where we're probably going to haul. I don't know if I should even say it, but it'll be on record. But when we're hauling manure out of feedlots, what happens? You haul it out. When a farmer wants to buy it, you're going to load it up and you're going to haul a whole bunch at one time. So you might have 25, 30 loads for 2 weeks. It's cleaned up. It's in the fields where it needs to be. And then it'll go back to your probably 6 to 10 loads a day. So you got a consistency of product coming in, and then you have an influx of product going out once in a while. So you could have a range, just like any, in the fall of the year. You've got trucks on the whole road hauling grain more in the fall than you do throughout the year.
So these will be like side dump, semi-trailer loads.
Correct. Side dumps, belt trailers, stuff like that, truck and pups.
Do you do any custom application yourself of the?
We do. We'll do most of it ourselves, but
Oh,
if
you
we,
do?
yeah,
Okay. And then as far as your market, how far out do you plan to go from this side, or does it?
you know, these natural products are in actually high demand. One of them is there's different things with carbon sequestering that's being brought up. Okay, so farmers can get a better carbon index by using a natural material now. They're going to be in higher demand now in the future than they are even now, but right now they're in high demand. And so we have, I think 30 some thousand acres of customers that we signed up on our permit, on our grant application. So that said that they would take it, and there's more than that. So in this area, I have not got 30,000 acres in this area. I'll be honest, but if I have to, we'll haul it down to Woodbine, or we'll haul it to Moorhead or Soldier or something like that, where there's an area where there's not many livestock facilities. But we do sell a lot of manure in this area.
So as far as the custom application, you have the rigs come in and out. Do they load there? Do you load out in the field? or
They load in the field.
load
We'll have trucks on the road. We won't have any custom applicators hauling on the road.
Coming in and out?
Nope. They won't even come on site. Trucks will haul on the road to pile it in the field. And then a custom applicator will come load it back up out of the field and apply it to the field.
Does anyone else on the board have any further questions?
Yeah, you did mention like banana peeling before, so you would be getting actual like food waste. too.
We could in the future. I
Okay.
mean, yeah, we're gonna have to have a whole industry that separates that. Like we're, as humans, are gonna physically have to say, I want to put it in this bin versus this bin before we're gonna take that. But I would say that's coming. My wife is already doing that now, and there's a lot of other people that are too, but on the coast, they're doing it a lot. But right now, we don't have infrastructure around to handle that. So someday we will, but only way I'm going to have banana peels is if Hy-Vee calls and says they have a whole bunch of a truckload of bad bananas. They'll probably bring them out. We'll mix them in.
So that definitely would not be cooked like you're referring to coming out of the packing.
That would not be cooked.
Any further questions from any other members?
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
I do have a bag of finished compost. If anybody's wondering about what it smells like.
I can't smell anything anyhow.
That's why. Yeah. No.
Party gets to.
It smells kind of, it does kind of smell. That's what it smells to. I guess if you guys don't have any questions for me, I do have this actually probably a bigger part than what I even had here was you need to probably know, well, you guys want to know what the site's going to look like, right? Okay, so I actually brought an engineer to talk about that. So you guys can have questions on that. Is that gonna, do you guys have any concerns about the environmental aspects, how the water is going to be managed, how far we are from houses and creeks and streams and wells and all that stuff? We have to meet all those requirements, and I have an engineer that can visit about that. Okay. This would be Justin Sprague with ProAg Engineering. Again, I don't want to take much of the time, but I think this is stuff that you guys need to know. So.
Okay, yeah, you're welcome to address the board.
My name is Justin Sprague from 302 Broadway in Audubon, Iowa. Mr. Sandquist engaged me as a professional engineer licensed in Iowa to review his sites and advise on his site feasibility and permitting. Just to review the DNR requirements, there are 3 levels of composting facilities allowed in Iowa. Only one of them that is permitted requires an engineer to sign on the site plans, the design, and the operations plan. In the site feasibility, excuse me, the DNR does give specific setback requirements. It's 500 feet from the composting facility to a residence. You may not compost in a designated wetland. 200 feet separation to a public well, 100 feet to a private well, 50 feet to the property line, and 100 feet from a water source. Then in the design of the site, we do have to address the water management, and that's both surface and groundwater. There has to be a surfacing for the compost facility that's impermeable. So that's 1 × 10⁻⁷ centimeters per second, just saying that it's not going to soak through that surface and get into the groundwater, but it has to be all weather accessible at the same time. We do have to address the best management practices in the compost community to minimize odor, dust, noise, litter, and vectors. And then to address a few of Abe's previous comments, in the design that I have to prepare for the DNR, we have to identify all feedstock coming onto the property, their frequency, and the volume or the tonnage. So he cannot, if Hy-Vee bananas, as the example, if Hy-Vee bananas is not listed as an identified feedstock named in his permit, he may not receive it. So the DNR in their review knows everything, the amount and the testing that is brought onto the facility. If he needs or would like to accept a new feedstock, he has to go back to the DNR, get their approval before it ever makes it onto the site. Including in the operations and the management plan, we also have to include an offtake plan. So he can bring in this feedstock. He also has to have a plan to get rid of all of that feedstock. He can't keep anything on his site as finished product for more than 18 months, or he's no longer in compliance with his permit. There's annual reporting included that makes sure he's operating within the permit constraints. And there's also a level of assurances that we have to include in that permit application. To include a financial assurance, a closure report and plan. So if the site is no longer planning to operate, they have to notify the DNR no less than 2 months before that happens. But the permit is good for 3 years, and then they have to renew every 3 years. And they have to have a 90-day renewal application prior to permit expiration. And again, a few of the other comments, DAF is a dissolved air flotation. So DAF sludge is referred to. It's a way to remove proteins, fats, and other fibers that can't be mechanically removed from wastewater any other way. So they put a dissolved air up through the water, and it helps to separate out those solid waste products. Currently, most of the DAF sludge is landfilled, and there's also exemption by rule that a lot of the DAF sludge is applied to ag ground. If you do it at 2 dry tons an acre, you don't need a permit to do that. So much of the DAF sludge from the packing plants in Iowa is currently sent out and land applied under that exemption. So just a clarification on the DAF again. So in general, again, Mr. Sandquist asked me to review his sites for feasibility and advise on all of those permit limitations. In reviewing this site, it's my opinion that it does meet all of the DNR requirements for siting, and his preliminary business plan as the skeleton that can then go be developed into his permit application. Any questions of me?
So when you make that soil impermeable, you're not talking concrete, you're talking making the soil impermeable.
So the DNR requirement is an impermeable surface, and all of those are options. So they specifically list concrete, asphalt, compacted granular fill, or compacted soil. Most commonly, that's compacted clay. Part of the other site investigation is a geotechnical review of the site. So we'll go out and take samples from the area that he's planning for the composting surface, as well as the runoff containment, to make sure that the material there would meet those requirements. We also look for groundwater and make sure there's a separation distance there, as well as shallow lime rock, sand pockets, or any other thing that doesn't show up on the general map review. We do a site-specific geotechnical review.
So you're doing soil test, you're drilling down and taking samples.
Correct.
Are you planning on bringing the clay in if you're going to use clay? I mean, you don't, obviously, since you haven't done the samples yet, you don't know exactly what you're going to use as material for permeable yet.
That's correct. So in the map review, obviously the less soils don't get compacted and meet that requirement. The parent material underneath that topsoil surface, the map review says that lower strata of soils does have the clay material. My estimate right now is a 2 foot of compacted clay would meet that impermeable surface, but that isn't enough. We have to do the site-specific evaluation, and that's part of that design that gets sent into DNR for review.
Do you know what soil type is on that soil? What actual soil type it is?
I did not bring that with me. I apologize. Would you like me to get that for you?
I can actually look that up.
Sure.
I have a question about, say, the stormwater runoff. So I believe, read in the application here whether you guys have plans to, or Mr. Sandquist has plans to build a 100-foot long shed, I believe, maybe in one stage, and maybe another 200-foot long shed. I'm assuming those are going to have roofs, be a covered shed with a roof.
Correct.
Okay. So as far as stormwater, we're adding a lot of impermeable surface there as far as the building roofs and then this pad. I understand where you have the material, that water is going to be designed to go into a different holding basin. But as far as all the stormwater that's going to run off of the structures, what's the plan for that? Does that go into a separate pond, or does that just go into the natural flow of the water off-site downhill towards the West Fork, or what will happen to that?
So you're correct. The clean water will be managed separately from the water off the composting facility. And that, again, that is a design requirement from the DNR. We have to keep both of those things separate. The clean water will all meet the DNR stormwater requirements. And there's one for during construction, and that's primarily so no sediment or anything leaves the site. And then post-construction, we again have to meet those DNR requirements for stormwater control. And it's split up into the different design storms. It's the short, intense storm, the longer, steady rainstorm, and all of those will be managed. We're not changing the direction of any of the current runoff. Obviously, we're capturing a good portion of that and holding that in the runoff containment basin. So total volume of water leaving the site would be less.
So there may be a clean water stormwater pond as well then, potentially. Is that what you're saying? As part of the stormwater mitigation?
Yes. So the stormwater, there's a variety of different controls, a detention cell, retention cell, infiltration area. And all of those meet the same design requirement for the DNR post-construction stormwater plan, so that we're not discharging a high volume, high flow off the site, that it's a controlled release of clean water.
Okay, I just did not see that on the engineered drawing here anywhere about unless I'm missing it.
You're absolutely correct. Nope, that is a preliminary design as far as the site layout. Again, primarily looking at the setbacks and making sure that we meet all of those requirements. When we have a final design, all of those clean water design elements would be included as well.
Are there any further questions from any of the other board members?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, do we have any other comments from members of the public that are here that would like to address the board? And I would like to note that we do have to run a timer of about 3 minutes. So please bear with us and we'll try to hear everyone.
Thank you. I'll try to talk really fast. I'm Glenda Tevis. I own and live on a farm that is located at 2539 Old Highway 141. It adjoins the property that is the proposed site on the north side. It's about a half a mile from my driveway to the proposed driveway for this particular site. Now, for generations, my late husband's family farmed that particular land. They lived on the east side of the road and farmed the land on the west side. They raised a few animals and pastured them up in the Les Hills that are right there. For generations, they worked in the gardens and fields. They watched the sun set in the west. They watched the stars and the moon. They had family gatherings in the front yard. And during all of that time, for those generations and for tens of thousands of years before that, the Les Hills wrapped itself around them on the east side like a cloak. If this conditional use permit is granted, all that will change. The proposed facility creates many adverse effects on the health, safety, and welfare of the community. And by community, I don't mean just me. I mean the people who are living within a 5-mile radius of that proposed site. And that includes 17 homes along Old Highway 141 to the north to the Luton Road. It includes family farms and people who live south of the facility in Hornick and Holly Springs. It includes people who live and work on the Mobile Blacktop. So there are quite a few people who are impacted. And whether we see it or not, and we will hear and smell the facility and wonder if our air and water contain things that are contaminating us. Heavy truckloads of manure and other waste products will be traveling that winding, curving road. And there are many, many curves. Those of you who have visited the site know that. That will create hazard for residents who are backing out of their driveways, who are crossing the road, who are getting their mail. It will create hazards for farm machinery moving from one field to another, and for motorists and cyclists who are traveling the Les Hills National Scenic Byway on their way through the Les Hills. Do they know where to slow down? Where there are curves, blind curves? Do they know where to slow down? Because animals, typically like deer, cross the road. They're not marked, but the community knows where those places are. Since the Zoning Commission meeting on the 22nd of April, there have been 2 vehicle accidents on that road on a curve. One of them, a truck lost a wheel, went off into the very narrow shoulder that's grassy. Another one, a car crossed the median, the center line, and hit an oncoming SUV. What if there had been a heavy load-bearing truck following one of those, carrying manure or other waste products? The Les Hills, those fragile giants, are not the place for a waste composting facility. Tearing up the soil and compacting it are not the way to preserve the hills. That's not caring for the environment.
I'm sorry, but I'll have to stop you there at the time so we can let everybody speak.
Thank you. I have brought a petition with me signed by
I'll make a motion to receive. Do I have a second?
I'll have a second.
Motion and a second, second by Doyle. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Thank
That-
you.
That passes 5-0.
Hello, good evening. I'm Jess Beam from 2826 Grundy Avenue. Live about 4 miles north of Hornick, and our property is adjacent within the 500-foot mark. I have some maps I'd like to present to you if I could.
Go ahead. Do I have a motion to receive?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion to receive. We have a second by Doyle. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes 5-0.
So our main concern is not the business per se, but the location of the business. We would be very happy to have that business in Woodbury County, but we would not like it in the Los Hills and adjacent to our property. Our property is the green dot on there, and each of those properties have wells that we drink out of. The Erickson property drains across our land. And so just to make it short here, our main concerns are air quality, odor, chemical emissions, water quality. Also, one thing you guys be interested in is what the property values would do out there with this being in the Los Hills. Mentioned before, excessive truck traffic and also noise quality. My wife walks out in those hills daily with our pets, and it's a very quiet, peaceful place to be. I'm 5th generation Woodbury County resident and landowner, and we enjoy living here. Just a couple questions for you guys. What is your commitment to the preservation of the Los Hills? And have you considered the Owego wetland, which is approximately 3 miles from this site down on the bottom? That would be like a mostly west southwest of this site. I'm assuming some of that groundwater would drain into that basin as well as down to the West Fork. I just hope you would think about what this would be like to have by your house. And also, I was happy to see some of you went out to the site, and I think that's a good idea for all of you to go look at that site. And I would just recommend that we could find a more industrial location for this business that would be beneficial to everybody. And there are some sites available down by AGP and in that industrial area. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, who's next?
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Tevis, and my address is 187 H Avenue, Pilot Mound, Iowa. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. I grew up on the adjacent farm to this site and farmed with my husband in Boone County for 40 years. I also worked in National Farm Magazine in Des Moines for 36 years as a risk management and issues editor. I'm here to object to the approval of the conditional permit. It's not an appropriate site for it. Mr. Erickson may own the property, but he doesn't own the air, the rain that falls from the sky, potentially washing down the fragile soils of these hills and causing pollution, or the road from Sioux City and Sergeant Bluff or Onawa or wherever the trucks may travel there. I fear that the costs of doing business at this facility are going to be outsourced onto the community while both Mr. Erickson and Mr. Sandquist live somewhere else. Does the cost benefit ratio of this include the potential environmental and health repercussions?
Glenn Tevis, I think, has really adequately, more than adequately researched the road safety issues, but I have concerns about that. I also have concerns about the necessary oversight of companies like Tyson and Gelita and their organic waste stream that would be used. Organic waste composting is experimental. It's a coming thing, as Mr. Sandquist said, but you know, it's a work in progress, I'm sure, to get it right. And an uphill battle, I think, to sell this product to farmers, especially if if they're asked to pay more than they might for commercial fertilizer. I think, you know, it's decades from being refined into a science. And in the meantime, the residents of Woodbury County and the neighbors may be paying the price for a steep learning curve and lack of experience in adding food waste. I wonder what happens after the permit runs out. I read an article the other day, you know, a lot of mention of with the Iowa Department of Natural Resources to monitor and enforce regulations. I read an article in the Iowa Capital Dispatch about how the owners of a defunct hog confinement near Albia were ordered by the DNR to dispose of millions of gallons of liquid manure and solids 5 years ago. They were ordered to remove it, and it's not removed yet. The owners who live in Minnesota now are faced with fines. And will it ever be cleaned up? Will all the fines be paid? And what are the rules for organic waste compost cleanup? Are there state rules? I also, you know, question, you know, the damage to the soils of the Les Hills. I think it's a waste of a natural asset to locate it there. And, you know, I didn't see any pictures of, you know, the buildings, the concrete, the holding ponds and all of that. But, you know, a comment was made by Mr. Sandquist the last meeting, we have to tear down the soil. So, you know, I think that who is going to benefit from this? Mr. Sandquist, Mr. Erickson, we don't know the amount of the grant, but who will lose? The neighbors in the community who live along Highway 141, passersby who might be injured or aggravated, the wildlife and the ecosystem, and the soils of the Les Hills. Is this a sustainable development? Is this kind of development that Woodbury County is pursuing in its vision for the future?
Okay.
I think Mr. Sandquist and Ms. Erickson were under no obligation legally to share the plans for the property with the neighbors. But I do think, you know, they might have thought it was easy to accomplish since the property owners on either side are recent grieving widows. And the fact they didn't tell them in person, I think raises questions of ethics and character. So if the past is prologue, I think we might expect more of that lack of communication and subterfuge.
I do have to stop you right there,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. I appreciate your attention. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
I'm Nathan Silknitter from 2835 Grundy Avenue, just on the opposite side of where the proposed site. Unlike most of you, I am not a lifelong Los Hills resident. I moved 10 years ago, so I feel like I'm kind of the newbie here. Yeah, I want to start by thanking you guys. The questions that you asked, I was wondering also, and you took care of a lot of my issues. When we were working on the hill behind our garage, I was told that the Los Hills is essentially a sacred thing. There's things you could do with the soil. There's places you can take it. There's things you can bring in that you can't. I didn't fact check that. I just went with it and worked around it. One of the first things I learned when I moved here from the Rocky Mountains, other than how to pronounce Knepfler, was how sacred the Los Hills are to you guys, and now to me, because it's my home. I was told the only hill range like it in the world is in China. Why that's relevant, I never found out. But these hills are special. They mean a lot to a lot of people, and especially to me. We moved out there to get away from all the truck traffic, to get away from all the noise. He presented a bag of compost, and it doesn't stink. I work at CF Industries, not that I care about competition from a fertilizer, but I can bring you a handful of dry granular urea, and it smells like nothing. The ammonia we use to make that smells like something. There's processes that we don't know that much about. He started his speech by saying they had 24 hours to have it done, to have it in windrows and to be started. Then later in his speech, he said, well, legally we have 72, but it's our best practice to make it 24, essentially. I'm paraphrasing because I don't listen that well sometimes. Say something does happen, say there is a storm come through, say they leave early for ice, it happens. That stuff could legally sit for 72 hours. That is going to attract all sorts of varmints. Anybody who's ever been around a pile of feed has seen the rats and the mice that come in. Maybe not birds that was brought up, but other varmints, which is going to attract coyotes and other predators. We got sheep in those hills, we got cattle, we got chickens, we got ducks, geese, pheasants. We raise it all in the hills. And the coyotes are a real problem. The raccoons are a real problem. Not just to bash, like my neighbor Jesse Beam said, we're not opposed to this. You just don't want it there. I have a suggestion for a different site. It's right by Gelita. Anybody who's driven by Gelita in the summertime knows the smell. I mean, it's unmistakable. There's a site. I don't know exactly how much you need. It's 37 acres. It has outbuildings. It has sat empty since 1988. It was a pesticide plant. And I got a bunch of paperwork from the DNR about the testing that it's been through. That road has been reinforced by CF Industries and Mid-America to accommodate heavy trucks, many trucks. You're getting product from your neighbors right there. It is already an industrial site. The letter we got talked about it being an agricultural waste. And I know I'm splitting hairs and I'm a sucker for semantics. Once you get product from Gelita, that is industrial waste. I know it is natural and I know my time is up, Dan.
Yep, sorry, Mr.
But-
Suckner.
But I brought this for you. I printed off some stuff. It's not that we're against you. I'm just against you in my backyard.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
Hello, I'm Kim Sulzberger. I live at 2853 Grundy Avenue in Hornick. Just thank you for the opportunity to speak. Just have a few statements here. So my home is approximately 180 feet to the east of the property line, the adjacent property line. And also, depending on what layout you look at, my home is between 480 and 680 feet of the actual facility itself. I know that layout has changed in the last 2 weeks from the things that I've seen in the packets. So I guess that's concerning, along with some of the comments tonight that probably, maybe, if, I'm not sure. So will this change? Will my house be closer? Do they really have this plan ready to be permitted? I don't think so. The property itself is also a clear sight from my home. So those of you that have gone out there, I hope you took Grundy Avenue and can see from the road. You can see directly to that from my kitchen window, my living room window, from my front porch. So I am concerned of the odor, animals that may come in. We raise animals. My kids show for 4-H, FFA. We have animals that I would be concerned about. And then just safety. I know the highway's been talked about. No one's mentioned that it's a bus route. There's buses that stop. There's kids that get on and off the bus on that highway. We're a rural community. There's young drivers, kids that just have school permits that are on that highway. So with increased truck traffic, I think that's a safety concern. And then just the general health and well-being of the community, of the neighbors. You can see any one of us outside gardening, walking, running, biking, on Grundy Avenue, just in the hills there. And we want to know that we're safe, that the air that we're breathing that is safe. I worry about water quality. My house and ground is downhill, directly downhill from that property. So will my well water be safe? What conditions can you put in place that would ensure that? I don't think there are any. And then just in closing, I think it was said best at the zoning commission meeting, one of the commissioners said, anytime that you're adding all of these conditions and screening requirements, it's just not the right site. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
I'd like to make a quick comment. Michael Gallagher, 2941 Mobile Blacktop, Hornick, Iowa, 51026. Yeah, thanks for taking the questions and the questions, as always already was mentioned, that were asked. Thanks for going through those. I think I just want to make one comment in regards to some of the things that have been said, and that's really the idea that I think Abe did a great job of giving different reasons for why a facility like this might be beneficial, especially as it becomes an emerging industry. I think you've heard clearly that our concern, again, like he said, waste is only because it's out of place. And our concern is that it would still be out of place in this location for the reasons that have already been stated. I don't need to go through those statements or those points that have already been made. But I do want to say that a conditional use permit like this obviously sets a standard. And if this is an emerging industry, I think it is good for Woodbury County to know what standard they are setting. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would wishes to address the board? Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. I guess it would be appropriate now to go ahead and close the board or close the public hearing.
Yeah, you would close the public hearing, then the Board of Adjustment can.
Ask questions from anyone we wish. Okay. I'm going to make a motion that we close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I believe Tom beat you to the second there, Doyle. So we have a motion by me and a second by Tom to close the public hearing. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That passes 5-0. I do have one statement I would like to address you guys, to let you know that due to the complexity of this application, the Board of Adjustment does have up to 35 days to render a decision. We may have a decision tonight, we may not. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Posted somewhere.
Refer to you, Dan.
The decision would have to be made at another public meeting, and so the Board of Adjustment does meet monthly. So within that time frame, the board, they could either call a special meeting or on, I think, June 3rd would be the next one. The first Monday of the month is when this board meets. So, but it would have to be rendered in a public meeting. It wouldn't be a public hearing, but it'd be a public meeting.
You guys okay with entertaining further questions from the floor?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Another meeting, because, will it be in the paper? If so, would you put it in the grapevine, which is the paper we all need? Not the journal?
Technically, it would be an agenda item. An agenda item is something that it has to be posted within 24 hours, kind of similar to what the zoning commission did as far as having the item posted. The centric point was this public hearing here. As far as making the decision, the Board of Adjustment technically could make the decision tonight. They could make it a week from now, but it would be officially posted on the building. It would be posted on the website, and it would be included as an agenda item in the packet and the material for a subsequent meeting.
Okay, I'll go ahead and open it up for you guys. Does anyone want to start off with any comments or give us any direction on what your thoughts are?
I want to compliment both sides for being very fair-minded and bringing out very good points on both sides. I like the fact that forgot your name, I'm sorry, Sandquist, actually said some things that he was honest enough to say some things that didn't really help his case. And I was thankful that people from the opposing side kind of did the same thing. You know, they aren't against this per se. They don't feel this is the right place to put it. I have to say that I agree. This lowest soil, I've lived in it all my life. It's extremely tricky to play with. I can remember a dairy proposal that was in the Loess Hills that they were allowed to assume that clay was 40 feet below the surface. So they did test wells that were 32 feet. The state came back and told them, you will have to go the 40 feet and actually find out if there was clay down there. And guess what? There wasn't any clay down there. So the dairy actually pulled their application because they would not be able to build a lagoon that would actually hold water in a way that they wanted to build one. They were going to have to use they were either going to have to use an enormous amount of bentonite or they were going to have to use a fiber. And in that case, it was going to end up being fiber and they didn't want it. So you have some real challenges putting something like this into the soil. And I think part of the reason why your neighbors are so upset is because they understand that already. And I actually was the person that got the two sides together when that dairy came in and explained to the dairy, these people have been living here all this time. They know you can't do what you're trying to do. Let them explain it to you. And that's how things got resolved. I have a real problem with this facility being this close to a feedlot. I have no problem with composting, and I know when it's done right, you end up with a product that is very usable in the industry. Smell isn't really a problem when it's done right, but I have a real problem bringing in a lot of different things that close to a feedlot. We don't have many feedlots left in this state and Sulzberger in this county, and Sulzberger's feedlot is one of the best ones in our county. I'll be honest with you, they do some custom feeding. They feed a lot of their own cattle. I don't have any cattle in a custom yard, but that's a yard that I would be willing to put cattle in. And I would not be willing to put cattle in their yard if they were next to your facility. I think this is a huge environmental risk. I think when we have pathogens that are crossing species, we have to be that much more careful when we bring products from all different sources and start blending them together at what has access to that before it's done composting. So I would lean no on this conditional use permit.
Anyone else on the board have any comments they would like to share as well?
I agree with Doyle in commending both sides of this issue for their preparation and their research. I think that Mr. Sandquist has a wonderful idea. It's very futuristic, looking forward. I think that it is going to be the way to go for a lot of our fertilizer business because it's a natural product. However, I understand the local people's concern that they don't want something that close. In speaking with Mr. Erickson, he said that he has given different considerations to how he is going to use his property. And if he doesn't use it for For this project, he will use it for farming. And is it okay if I say you would expand your farming operation to include some of the side hills that are currently not under cultivation at this point, which in my opinion is more detrimental to the Les Hills than maybe what this project of taking 20 acres out of production would do. I think that most of you are not against the idea of the compost. Like you said, you just don't want it to be your next door neighbor. You don't want it that close to you. I think that Mr. Sandquist has addressed a lot of the issues as far as runoff, as far as odor, things like that. I think the ideas that he's come up with and the plans that he has look on paper like they would definitely work. I think that Mr. Sandquist is open to exploring other sites if there was one there. When I spoke to him on the phone yesterday, he indicated that, hey, tell me where else I can go with this project. If there's another site that will work as well as this one does, this one, in his opinion, is very ideal because of the lay of the land and because it's up above the floodplain and things like that. But he said, if there's another place I can go, I'd be happy to go there if I just knew where it was. So, you know, if any of you have any ideas, let him know. I'm kind of on the fence. I'm not sure which way I want to go with this because I think that in view of the expensive fertilizer prices that we have today currently, I think an alternative of natural compost is a wonderful alternative. And I'm in favor of a composting plant for that reason. But I also can empathize with all of you who live in the Les Hills and with your feelings about the traffic and things like that that are going to obviously see an increase if this were to come to your neighborhood. So I really can see both sides, and I at this point I can't make a decision. Got to think more about it.
Pam, and I appreciate you saying that because I'm also very torn. I think the arguments tonight and the information that was presented from both sides was incredibly thorough. And yet, I think that there's still, I still don't know exactly the route I'm leaning. I'm also kind of torn with the zoning commission not recommending this to go forward. And so that's also playing into my consideration. Dan, can I ask a question to Mr. Sandquist?
Yeah.
So Mr. Sandquist, I'm curious. So you were presented with an additional option tonight. I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. Nathan. So like in considering that and hearing Pam's conversation with you, like where does that leave you in the event that this would not be something that was approved, like exploring that additional site?
If you can you please come to the
Oh, I'm
microphone so we
sorry.
can record this? No. Thank you.
Yes, I want this to be a long-term operation where people like, okay?
Mhm.
I will definitely explore this site, but the one thing I'll say is that all that land down there is a 100-year floodplain. Might not get, you guys might like it, but I might not. Okay, so I need to find somewhere that's a little higher in elevation. And can I make one other comment? I actually am a consultant for DNR. I work with a lot of large cattle feedlots. Okay, we probably have 70 or 80,000 head of cattle we look at. I've got 3 or 4 of them that are composting these same materials on their sites. They're taking them into their sites, and but maybe not something that they should be doing. I don't think it should be done on site, but they are taking these materials in. So, but anyway,
Thank you for that consideration.
but yeah.
So that's all I have. I just, at this point, I don't know exactly where I'm at. So I think I'll need some additional consideration.
I've read through this. I mean, I think it's a very thorough application. A lot of time was spent putting this together. Really kept our staff busy. I've read through the Woodbury County zoning ordinance, and we have several requirements that we have to follow for conditional use permits. And a couple of them stand out to me in this instance. Item conditional permit requirement C, the proposed use and development will not have a substantial or undue adverse effect upon adjacent property, the character of the neighborhood, traffic conditions, parking, utility facilities, and other factors affecting the public health, safety, and general welfare. Item D, the proposed use and development will be located, designed, constructed, and operated in such a manner that will be compatible with the immediate neighborhood and will not interfere with the orderly use, development, and improvement of surrounding property. And I got to say, for my tenure on the Board of Adjustment here, we've never had a crowd like this, nor have we ever received a petition. A couple points were brought up here tonight that got my attention. One of those being, you know, a school bus route. The other being, you know, that is a Luss Hill Scenic Byway. I do have concerns over the amount of truck traffic that will be on this road now as a result of this facility. And my question was answered where it would be not, you know, dump trucks, but it would be 80,000 pound side dumps or whatever they weigh. The other question I had was the load ranges 6 to 10, but we also heard there could be 25 to 30 a day, you know, based on the seasonality of it. So I'm leaning towards the recommendation of the zoning board for all these things that I read through the zoning ordinance. I'm recommending towards denying this permit based on these things that I've learned tonight. So that's my thoughts. Anyone else on the board that would like to make any comments?
Yeah, I just think with the location in the Loess Hills and the traffic concern that I would probably be against that.
Pam and Ashley, is there any other questions you guys have for anyone else of the applicant? Any further discussion that we could have tonight to help you guys? Or do you both think you're still kind of on the fence?
Daniel, I appreciate you kind of going through also like the ordinance, and kind of really does help like solidify like the unmitigatable threats. I don't know if threats is the right word, concerns to traffic, the welfare of the community. So I do believe that I lean more towards the denying it also because I'm still, I mean, the guidance from the zoning commission also denied. Thank you, KTIV. Ron DeMars just really made me lose my train of thought. But I mean, if I were to have to vote tonight, it would be to deny.
I guess I would be probably leaning towards denying as well at this point. Not that I'm, as I said, opposed to the project. I think it's great. And I think another site, I would be, if it were in an industrial area, I would be all for this this project going forward. So I probably would vote against it as well.
The one thing that I do appreciate about the site is that the out of sight, out of mind. When you look at feedlots, that is one of the things that we do consider. However, in this instance, I don't think it's as out of sight, out of mind to these neighbors. When I built my feedlot, I built a half-mile road to get out of sight, out of mind. You're right at the end of those bluffs. And So your neighbors are actually closer. And this is an area that I believe if we go back to our site back to our master plan is slated more to go more homes. I'm not sure on that. But you know, you're on a blacktop and we have high-end homes going in down on that area. I really don't think this fits in with where this community wants to go from a zoning side of it. Yeah, I can understand the out of sight, out of mind, but I just don't think that this property in this exact location truly gets you what you're really going for.
Anyone else have any further comments on the board? See,
Forgive my ignorance, but is the vote majority or does that have to be unanimous? Or how does that work?
majority. Seeing no further comments from the members of the board, is there somebody that would like to entertain a motion tonight?
I'd make a motion to deny.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Tom to deny. Dan, officially, do we need to further explain that, expound on the denial?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, Tom, do you think you could incorporate some of the reasons that were given up here for denial? We have a motion in a second, but we can do this midstream.
Have to withdraw.
Okay. Okay, Tom, I'm going to ask you to withdraw that motion. And then do we have to vote on the withdrawal or he just can withdraw it
It'd have to be,
to restate the motion?
it'd have to be restated.
Okay, I'll ask you to restate that, withdraw that motion, Tom, and then restate it. You know, if you're going to incorporate some reasons, you know, that were outlined.
I'll withdraw that motion and
We should use the phrase amended.
Okay.
just to amend the motion and reasons I vote for denial is just the Loess Hills, I think need to be preserved. And I'm just not too sure about what all could happen on these compost piles and with the different products that are being brought in. It's just too many unknowns. That's the way I feel about it. And the traffic part of it.
Can we amend that further, Dan, or is that
You can request it.
okay?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I amend that further, Tom? Okay, okay, I'm for the denial of this permit, you know, based on the zoning ordinance C and D, where, you know, the proposed, well, I won't restate that, but according to the zoning ordinance, I think we have a duty to represent the safety and well-being of those who live in the area and use the area. So I think we have a good reason to deny based on increased heavy truck traffic on a Loess Hill Scenic Byway and school bus route. Is that okay with you, Tom? Does anyone else have anything further?
That's fine.
How are we looking there, Dan? Do we,
You referenced the two criteria of C and D and traffic and school bus route.
yes, the general well-being of the community that lives in this area and the safety. Okay, so we have a motion and we had that second by Doyle still apply here, or will he need to second that again?
I'll second that.
Okay. A motion by Tom, second by Doyle to deny this conditional use permit. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of denying, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes 5-0. I'm gonna move down to item 6. Do we have any public comment on matters not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna move down to item 7 for the staff update, and I'm gonna turn that over to you, Dan.
Okay, tomorrow night, Board of Supervisors are having the third and final public hearing on the comprehensive plan, the solar, utility solar permitting regulations and general industrial, and the floodplain requirements. So floodplain, solar, and comprehensive plan. The meetings begin at 4:30 PM. And one thing, Woodbury County is hosting a zoning conference called COZO, which is affiliated with all the other 99 counties across the state. We have this group called ISAC, which the counties are all associated with. We have a 3-day conference, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, that they talk about a number of zoning topics, and commissioners and board of adjustment members, even supervisors are encouraged to, and even the public, if they're interested, encouraged to attend and look at some of the things that county zoning has to offer and kind of compare notes with other jurisdictions. That'll be on the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. And if you have some questions about it, please do let me know. If you're planning on attending, we'd kind of like to know before the 10th, if possible, of May. And let us know and we'll handle registration and everything. So.
I thought it looked interesting. But are we to pay our own way? Sorry. Are we to pay our own way if we decide that we're going to go?
It would be a training opportunity out of our typical, we've had the Iowa State training, so that would be affiliated with our budget, so we could.
And what if we could go like maybe 2 days, but not the third one?
Well,
Is that an option, or do you have to
It's-
sign up for the whole thing?
it's, if you're doing like a cameo appearance, just come in a real brief time, registration wouldn't be a thing, but if you're staying more than 1 or 2 sessions, then you would want to register.
Register,
yeah.
but can you just do it piecemeal, like 2 days and not take the third day, or?
Yeah, it looks like it's a complete registration.
So you have to go regardless, so
Yeah, I
you
mean,
would, you would sign up for it all,
Yeah,
even though you might not be able to attend all.
Yeah,
this.
it's your discretion on attending. It would just be the flat rate, so.
Okay, got it.
Is there anything further, Dan? Do that. Okay, thank you. Is there any other board member comment or inquiry? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Pam to adjourn. Do we have a second? Second by Ashley. Any further discussion? Guess it's non-debatable. So all those in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, we're adjourned 5-5-0.